time is it?
It's been a long time.
Yes, it has.
I forgot how to use StreamYard. I'm like, what the hell do I
What's
do
this
now?
device we're talking on here?
It's literally been like years since we've done a stream.
It has been.
And-
Speaking of has-beens, yes, it's the both of us.
Yes, it is. But we did go see Frozen Empire.
Yes,
Thursday.
and it's also the 50th anniversary of Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. That's what
Then
we're
we'll have to do
about.
a stream. We'll have to do a stream for that.
Oh, we're not. Oh, okay. Hold on.
No, we're going to talk about Ghostbusters. Now, this is a great year. 2024, we have the 40th anniversary of 1984 movies, which 1984 is a pretty good year for movies. We have the 35th anniversary of 1989, which was one of the best years. I think it's right there with 82.
Yep.
And then also the 30th anniversary of 94, which was a phenomenal year for movies. And the 25th anniversary of 99, which, except for the Phantom Menace, was also a good year for cinema. So like it's this crazy year where we could do all these.
If you remember these movies, you're old.
Yeah. Back to our previously scheduled program.
Yes.
Hello, old man. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi there. I am Spoiler Pete. And I like to hear about spoilers, and I spoil things, and I'm a no good Nick like that.
So are you telling the people watching, whether live or on Memorex, see, that dates me right there, that you're going to drop some spoilers about the new movie?
We probably will. I mean,
I think we're going to.
I think anybody who's like super excited about it probably has gone out and seen it already.
You've had 3 days. Time's up.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, this is the internet. Chop, chop.
Right. And before we get into the Ghostbusters thing too, why don't you pimp your wares, man? That.
Oh yes. Okay. Pimping my wares. I have a comic strip called Bird Brain, the comic strip, and there's I'll try not to.
Oh, look at it keying out.
Look at it keying out. Yeah, it's yellow. Bird
So
Brain,
you're not in New York? I thought you were in New York.
No, and these are not birds. This is a fold in my green screen. I thought, it's a motion background. No, it's not. Well, yes, I have a comic strip called Bird Brain, the comic strip, and if you go to birdbrainthecomicstrip.com, you can see all the strips. Or if you're so inclined, and I wish you would be, you could buy all the strips in a nice handy consecutive panel entertainment book that you can hold in your hand. There is the collected volume. There is volume 2, which is entitled Discount Seafood. And I've got volume 1 here somewhere, but I'm not going to go digging for it right now. I should have thought ahead.
Because I surprised you with this.
You did. You surprised me. But yeah, go to birdbrainthecomicstrip.com and you can get the volume 1, volume 2, and you can read some of the comics online. Not all of them, because I'm not quite that stupid.
What's great about it, Pete, and you should mention that it's like in the tradition of we're dating ourselves again, the Sunday funnies.
Yes. Although there are
the daily strips.
The daily strips. There's a lot of Bloom County influence there, because there's a lot of pop culture references that the older audience is going to get. The strips, there's no real swearing, nothing offensive, nothing sexual, nothing adult, but it's probably going to be boring for little kids.
Yeah, kids. So you might have to look up who Frank Sinatra or Johnny Carson is.
Yes, exactly. There's some really obscure references that you're going to have to Google, and I'm proud of that.
Good. That's educating our audience.
Exactly. Like,
or educating the youngins. You don't have to, I'm guessing our audience is our age. So if there's some youngins that happen to stumble on this.
Yeah. Well, even ones our age, like, what is Saturn III? Search engines, they have them on computers now.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. They have the internet on computers now.
You mean I don't have to go through the encyclopedia anymore?
Nope.
Wow.
Yes.
Let's get into Ghostbusters, shall we? Ghostbusters, what do you want? So 40 years ago, let me ask you, let me just tee it up this way. 40 years ago, when did you first see this film? Where, when?
I don't know. I know it wasn't opening night, but it was definitely within the first couple of weeks. It was definitely while it was still in, it was first run in theaters. So, but yeah, no, I remember it was quite the phenomenon. Everybody was talking about it. It was everywhere. Everybody had the no ghost shirts. The song was everywhere. I don't think they had the cereal or anything like that yet. That came with the cartoon, but
Hmm.
Busters was absolutely everywhere. And so,
Yeah.
being fashionable youngin that I was, gee, mom, dad, I want to go see this movie. And sure enough, my dad and I went and saw it, and then it was everything that it was hyped up to be. And
So I'm guessing you were about what, 11 or 12 at that time?
like that, yeah. I
Yeah.
think I was 12.
Okay. Yeah. Because you're a couple of years. I was 15. And I remember my best friend at the time, Colin Capers. Yeah, that's a real name. Colin called me up. I love names with alliterations like that. Colin Capers.
Peter Parker, Clark Kent.
Intrepid reporter, Colin Capers. He called me up and said that he had called the local rock station because they had one of those ticket giveaways, and it was the premiere. So it was a week ahead of time. It was a one showing premiere of the movie. And he's like, "Oh, I got tickets to Ghostbusters. You want to go with me?" And I'm like, "Ghostbusters? Well, what is that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and a couple people I don't know." Now, we were too young to go see stuff like Stripes or
right.
Alien, so I had never seen Sigourney Weaver before because she was in R-rated movies, and same with Harold Ramis. So I was like, I don't know who these people are. So I knew Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray, though. So I was like, yeah, I'll go. And I had no idea what I thought it was going to be, like a real farcical, comedy. And that the cold open threw me because it was deadly serious.
Exactly.
And I was like, I thought this was going to be funny, like, and then of course, as the movie went on, I was just slack jawed at like what I was watching. I'd never seen anything like this before because it was a comedy that was treated completely serious.
Yeah, dead serious, if you would.
Dead serious. I see what you did there. Dead
serious. Waka waka.
Waka waka waka. He's here all week, folks. So yeah, I immediately was enthralled, and it became like my favorite movie of that year, and it's in my top 5 of all time today.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's and of course it's king in the horror comedy genre, like Men in Black or oh boy, I really stepped in it.
Galaxy Quest, maybe. Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these genre bending movies that kind of take a little bit from both. Yeah, no, it's definitely the king there, and it always will be.
Well, it's funny because let's go talk about like the genesis of it, which was Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
He's been into the paranormal. His whole family's been into the paranormal for over 100 years, like generations of Aykroyds.
Yeah, didn't he have? I saw in some making of. Now correct me if I'm wrong, and if you're listening to us, be sure to send us a chat if I'm wrong. That there were actually like, oh, there you go. That there were actually like paranormal investigators in his family.
Yes.
Yeah, there were 3 sisters, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I think his father or his uncle, one of those, dabbled in it too, and like,
yep,
they were avid readers of these, pulp magazines about paranormal investigations, and I read that Aykroyd had read, he was at an office somewhere or something, or he was somewhere, and he saw a copy of a Paranormal Weekly or something to that effect. I forgot what the name was. It was called Psyche, something or other. Anyway, he was flipping through it, and there was an article about how they felt like if you had the right energy discharge, that you could actually freeze a spectral anomaly and just hold it for a brief time, like seconds. Right. And he's like, wow, that's really cool. Dan he's also obsessed with like aliens and all kind of interdimensional beings and things
and vodka in a crystal skull.
And vodka in a crystal skull. But he's into the supernatural, he's into the unexplainable, which is great. I mean, who isn't, right? Everyone's kind of mesmerized by that.
Exactly. But
he thought the idea and he thought the idea of maybe catching a ghost would make a great film, and he wanted to when he thought about doing it, he thought of those old like Abbott and Costello Meet
That's right.
Frankenstein and all those kind of old goofy
Yeah.
horror movies like
Yeah,
that.
every comedian in that particular era did some sort of a ghost chasing movie. I think Bob Hope
Exactly.
did one, and
Right. And he thought, what if I we haven't had one of those in decades? What if I made one of those?
Yep.
So he started his first draft script called Ghost Smashers.
Yep.
And it was for him, Belushi, and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy was added later, and interestingly enough, I found out that he's not. He wasn't originally cast as or in mind for Winston. He was actually in mind for Egon.
Yes.
And
correct.
so yeah, but his original script was definitely much more ambitious. It had the Fake Buck Marshmallow Man in much earlier in the script, and there was different teams of Ghostbusters, and it was in the way far off future of 2012. And there were teams of Ghostbusters and paranormal investigation that was a very common thing, like garbage men are today.
Exactly. And they were also interdimensional Ghostbusters. Like he was going to break into the fifth dimension.
Yep.
He said. So you'd have Ghostbusters. We're talking about, here we are with the multiverses, right? In these superhero films. It's a common concept to people now, but in 1981 or 82, when he was writing this, that was out there,
Exactly. And and then I think eventually he got involved with Ivan Reitman, and Ivan Reitman read this and said, "You can't shoot this.
Yeah, this will cost like 80, 100 billion, trillion, gazillion dollars."
So
no one will watch it because it's too dark and depressing.
Exactly.
That's the other thing. The tone was, he wrote a serious script.
Yeah, and so they started reworking it, and I think it was Ivan that brought in
Harold
Ramis. And
what's funny is I read that when Ivan said he was going to bring in Harold, Aykroyd was like, "Really? He'd want to work with me?" Like he thought, because Ramis had already done Meatballs and Caddyshack and Stripes,
right?
So Ramis was established as a director and a writer, and
yep,
Aykroyd's writing his first big feature script. He's like, really?
Exactly. So they brought it in and they started paring it down, and then they got it down to a much more manageable size. And unfortunately, John Belushi passed away while he was actually writing dialogue for him. And what are you gonna do? So that's when they brought in. That's when they had the handshake deal with Bill Murray, that they had no idea if he was going to actually honor that handshake deal until like the 11th hour.
He showed up
the first shooting.
Go ahead, tell the story. Yeah.
It's the first day of shooting. Cameras are ready to roll. People are ready to do stuff. I think, is Bill here yet?
Yeah. Didn't he just walk down the sidewalk? They were shooting the scene outside before the final battle, right? They were down on the side.
So yeah.
By Dana Barrett's apartment. That was the first scene they shot because they had the crowds chanting "Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters."
Yep.
And he just walks up.
Yeah. And it was like, okay, let's. Are we gonna shoot a movie or what?
Yeah, they said he was in Europe or something. He wasn't returning calls, and they had no idea.
He was being Bill.
He was being Bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, before we go forward, I mean, I just want to say that and we both kind of already acknowledged it. This movie was clearly like lightning in a bottle. This is a once in a lifetime occurrence where you have this confluence of events and happenings that make like basically a perfect movie.
Exactly. And not to get too ahead of ourselves here, and we'll discuss this later. But they, even the same group of people, tried it again, and it didn't work all that well.
Right. Yeah, so we'll get into that too.
Yeah, but it had to be. This story had to be at a certain place at a certain time, and then this person had to drop out, and this person had to drop out, and then this person had to be introduced, and all these dominoes had to be in place for this one movie to happen, and it was lightning in a bottle.
It really was. I mean, there was a chance at one point they were going to lose Ernie Hudson too after they'd cast him because they reduced his role. And they decided Winston was supposed to come in like right away. Like he was supposed to be part of the team when they went to the Sedgwick Hotel.
Yep.
And then they figured, no, let's bring him in halfway through, and he had to be the every guy. He's us. He's the audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because they're running around going, Class 5, Phil Rummy, you got to have someone who reacts like we would. Like, what?
Yeah, a lot of these movies, like Doctor Who and Men in Black and Galaxy Quest, you always have somebody who's the analog for the audience, because you just can't keep throwing jargon at them and expect them to get it. It's like, so when the audience is asking questions, what do you mean this police box travels in time and space? Well, that's what the companion is for, so you can explain it to them.
Right. Yeah. And when films that don't do that suffer greatly. So, they also had a problem early on. They were shooting scenes, and then they found out that Universal held the rights to the name Ghostbusters.
That's right, because there was a sitcom in the 70s.
Saturday morning.
Filmation. Yeah, the Saturday morning thing with
an
guy in a gorilla suit.
Yeah.
Tracy the gorilla.
Yeah. So they started shooting alternate takes using all the different names, like Ghost Smashers and Ghost Breakers, and yeah. Have you seen the outtakes of the commercial they make? Yep. Have you seen it?
What are we
it's
doing
amazing.
now? Ghost Breakers? Okay, Ghost Breakers.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
No,
and I think they knew it right away. And plus, they had already shot that huge scene where all the crowd's chanting Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters.
Right, exactly. But the head of Columbia he left Columbia and then went over to Universal Pictures. So of course he's like, and he was already a big fan of the script anyway. It's like, yeah, sure, you can have it for a nominal fee.
Yeah, he brokered the deal, but then Filmation still held on to a certain percentage of the rights, right? That's why when the 2 cartoon shows came out, they had the Ghostbusters, and it was the one with the monkey.
The original rights to it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then they capitalized and confused all us kids. This isn't Ghostbusters.
Right. And then so they had the one with the monkey was the Ghostbusters, and then they had to have the real Ghostbusters with the
it's kind of
cartoon.
Like
yeah.
Filmation. And that's of course when the cartoons came out. That's when you got your action figures. That's when you got your breakfast cereals, and you got all the other stuff that little kids were just fawning over because like, oh, it's got the Ghostbusters on it.
And I do want to get into that down the road too, about the marketing and the whole the franchise as a whole. Like, there was kind of a huge missed opportunity. We all know that. But back to the production. So, they lose what we said. They lose Belushi. They never cast Eddie Murphy.
Yep.
And Harold decides to play the Spengler himself. And for me, at 15-year-old me in the theater, not knowing who Harold Ramis was, because everything he was in was rated R, and I was a kid, and I wasn't allowed to see that. He was the biggest surprise to me. I loved Egon right out of the gate.
Oh yeah, no, he's an absolute riot, and I think it's because he plays the whole thing deadpan, with the exception of the "your mother" line.
Right.
Your mother. But
that's because his big experiment, his creation, was being shut down by this dickhead from the EPA. So he finally showed some emotion. That was his baby.
Exactly. But the fact he plays everything so deadpan is what makes that character.
Yeah, and as a fan of Star Trek growing up, I saw him as like a funny version of Spock in a way. He was the Spock of the Ghostbusters. So, and then of course, they add Winston Zeddemore halfway through. It's Ernie Hudson, who I thought was awesome too. Another guy I'd never seen or heard. I had no idea who he was.
Yeah, he came from he came from serious acting.
Yeah,
I think he went to Yale. I think.
Yeah, he was in The Last Starfighter just before that.
Was he really?
Yeah, he ran into Ivan Reitman. I forgot where he said he ran into Ivan Reitman somewhere, and they had known each other because they worked on Last Starfighter together. And Reitman said, "Yeah, I'm working on this ghost catching movie with Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray, and we got an open spot if you want it." And he's like, "Oh, really?" And he came down and auditioned for it. And he said the audition process took forever. It took over a month to actually get the role. And then found out it was chopped down. He was about to walk, but he gave it a shot anyway. He's like, you know what? This could be a vehicle for me. That I could get discovered from something like this. So.
All right.
And it worked. And he wins you over in the very first scene he's in when Annie Potts reads that whole, "Do you believe in clairvoyance?" And he's just staring at her.
If there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything.
And he's just that vacant look the whole time she's doing it. And then he goes, if there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say, you know. Great, you're hired. Yeah. So it just worked. Like the chemistry between those four guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Is magic. It's pure magic. And as clearly as we go forward in discussion,
and here it is,
40 to recreate.
Later, and we're talking, you know, and we're still talking about it. So
yeah.
So clearly, yes, it was magic.
Now we got to talk about some of the supporting characters as well, like Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis. Now, Rick Moranis came in from SCTV.
Yep,
that part was written for John Candy.
John Candy, exactly.
And Candy turned it down.
Yeah, I guess the role was very similar to like 2 or 3 that he had already done, like in a row.
Right.
And he wanted to do something really different with it. So he wanted to play it with a German accent and have a couple of German Shepherd pets and just like play it completely different. And they're like, no, man, no. So he stepped down, and Rick Moranis got his hands on the script, and he said, well, I'm glad John hates this thing because I love it.
Yeah, he thought what he said when he read the script, he said, this is a classic. He knew it right away.
Yep.
And Moranis, almost every line in the movie, he improv'd.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's especially the speech when the 2 guests come to the party.
Yeah.
And he's like,
this is Ted and Annette.
Yeah, they own a small dry cleaning business, and
it's in receivership, and
it's one shot. It's one shot.
One continuous shot.
Yeah. It was just absolutely brilliant. Well, the man is a brilliant comedian.
He is. Brought that to the stage that day and just riffed. The guy's amazing. And I think the newer movie suffers from no Louis Tully. I think Louis Tully was one of the bits of glue that held that whole thing together.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, his nerdiness was a little over the top. I guess he based it on a character he did for SCTV.
Yep.
But especially in the second movie, he's a little more cartoony.
Well, the whole movie's supposed to be the cartoon.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But it sucks not having him. You know, he retired from acting when his wife died, and it's just I thought they could pull him out for one of these, but one scene.
Rumor has it that they're doing something with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and he's interested.
Okay.
So
I just want to stop for a second to acknowledge Jace. Remember our pal Jace is in the chat.
Yes. Oh, hello, Jace.
Hello Jace. There. Thanks for tuning in. And he says, "Hail, good to see y'all again." Here, I'll just pop it up on the screen. I'm telling you, I forgot how to use this. Yes, thank you
very
Jace.
Much.
Thank you. I forgot how to use this thing, man. DS man. Oh, this is scary. Yeah, I was 15, so yeah. I'm right there with your mom, man. I mean, I ran around that summer quoting that movie to death because you know what I did, and I'm admitting to this is, you know, who can relate to this is Robert Meyer Burnett and Darren Doctorman because they used to do the same shit. I had one of those boom boxes.
Yeah,
I had a paper route, and I'd walk around, and oh, look at this. Oh, that's cool to hear.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. I hope she has a personality because her character doesn't. So I brought a boom box. I would put it in a duffel bag and go to the movie theater. And I would audio record all my favorite movies and just listen to them like audiobooks.
How did they not notice you got a big duffel bag?
They didn't care, man.
Oh, man.
Especially because most of my friends were working at the theater. Brad Leonard.
Oh, that'd do it.
They would just let me in. And so I'd go down, and Angelo would be with me, and we'd go down the front row and pop the thing down, record the movie. So nice. I knew that I could recite the movie back to front to back,
nice.
Front to back. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we digress.
Nice.
So the structure of the structure of the film itself also has, I think, it's a classic 3-act structure. It works as a whole. It's like we said before, it's a damn near perfect movie. Did you stumble on something?
No. Just DS man, savage roast.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
That must have been what I said about Phoebe Spangler.
Yeah. But yeah, it and not only does it have a great 3-act structure, but the acts get more and more absurd but they build at a slow rate so that it doesn't feel like it's just throwing weird shit at you. It evolves in a very organic way.
And it's interesting because, and I wanted to avoid 2016 as part of this, but I want to bring up the point that like Paul Feig let his actors improvise as well, right?
Yep.
The problem was he ended up with an incoherent mess of a movie because he didn't know when to shut him down. Ivan Reitman let those guys riff a lot, and some of the most memorable lines were improv on the spot, mostly from Bill Murray.
Yeah.
And it just worked though because it worked within the confines of the story. They gave them the script with rough ideas of what to say, and then kind of let them stretch it. Where
Exactly,
Paul Feig would roll camera and say "go," and just let them make it up as they went along, and that's a huge mistake.
Yeah, exactly. They were improvising with a structure, knowing that they had to get from point A to point B, as opposed to just randomly going off on these. Thank you. Although Ivan Reitman is all mouth.
He said Jason Reitman.
Oh, Jason Reitman. I'm sorry.
The son. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
yeah. You kind of do.
I'm not wearing these.
That's what it is.
But yeah, improvising with a structure definitely helps, as opposed to just randomly going off, because then you lose the story that you're supposed to be telling, and you have to get from A to B to C.
And that's where Feig was wrong to allow them to just go crazy like that with the improv. But I also feel bad for the guy in post when he had to try to make something out of that. But again, that's self-inflicted wound. So whatever, you pick your poison.
Exactly.
Got a question here. If I can get this to, there we go. What do you think the film would have? Oh, that's interesting. Well, the John Landis movies of the 80s, those comedies, always had an over-the-top third act, like over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hate the third act of Animal House. It just gets it's stupid. Like, it seems like all the cleverness is gone and it just becomes a slapstick farce, right?
Right.
I have a feeling that would have been the third act of Ghostbusters would have been very similar. I mean, the third act of Ghostbusters is already like the big special effects,
Right, exactly.
Extravaganza, but I think it would have been like ridiculously over the top.
Yeah, I mean it's grounded in the fact that you're not just getting hundreds and hundreds of ghosts, and all sorts of craziness. Just let's see here. We'll get
John Landis's might have been closer to the 2016 third act.
You're probably right. Yeah, where there's this where there's the choreographed ghost foo going on there, and they're just kind of randomly shooting and stuff, and the effects people have to match up what they're doing.
And then they kill the bad guy by shooting him in the dick.
Yeah.
Like that would have been John Landis. He would have done that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean the effects. Let's talk about the effects real quick. ILM was busy with Indiana Jones and Star Trek, so they went to Richard Edlund, who was leaving ILM,
to
form his own company. And there was another movie he got a contract with another movie, and the studio fronted him like $5 million or something.
Yeah,
and he used some of that money for Ghostbusters, but he didn't have a lot of time, and he didn't have a lot of help, and he feels like some of the effects slipped through the cracks and they were rushed, and they hurt in the movie.
But it does add to the charm.
I agree.
Like for example, like one of the dogs chasing Lewis out through the front door has got a nice thick white line around it, but it kind of, if you squint just enough, it looks kind of like, oh, it's glowing,
right?
But it's also part of the charm because it's stop motion. It's
kind of Harryhausen.
Exactly.
I think the worst terror dog shot is when it jumps out of it and lands on the table at the party.
Yeah,
that composite job's really rushed. You can tell it just doesn't look good.
But it's not up there long enough for you to take you out of the movie. It's janky enough to have character.
And there's enough motion blur when it bursts through the door. Out of Lewis's apartment. That looks good when it slams through the door.
Yep.
You know, it's like it's hit or miss with some of the effects. Some of them are, you know, not that great. I think the librarian ghost looks awesome
Oh,
in
absolutely.
the
Yeah,
front of the movie.
that transformation, it's really tough to spot.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. So
I think that was like 3 different models, I think. Like one here, and one big like that, and they faded between them, I think.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, Chevy Chase, no.
No, I don't think
No.
Chevy would have pulled it off. Well, I mean, he would have been
Good.
fine,
Yeah, he would
he
have been
wouldn't
fine.
he wouldn't have been Bill Murray.
Yeah, Bill Murray made the film.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
funny. I was reading an article in actually, let me bring this book up. I don't know if it's available. I should have done some homework before I got on here, but um, I love coffee table books, and this is a good one. It's too glary. Ghostbusters: The Inside Story. Is it less glary on this side? Anyway, it's a great coffee table book. I got this for $5, brand new.
$5.
Yeah, $5 from Eagle Moss. Remember Eagle Moss that made
Oh,
the Star
yeah.
Trek ships? They were
Yeah.
on their way out of business. They had this giant sale. I didn't know they were going out of business at the time, but they had this giant sale, and this book was one of them. It was $5. It was brand
Wow.
new in shrink wrap. Yeah.
Neat.
You know, and I haven't read the whole thing. I select read, you know, spots, but
Yeah.
um
Well, as long as it's
yeah,
one
so
sentence at a time, as opposed to just like
Aykroyd.
random words.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I used to read random words. I'd go to like page 212 and read it, and then I'd go back to page 8 and read the and, you
Yeah,
know,
it kind of it kind of makes plot lines incoherent.
and then I
Just
get
saying.
sleepy because I'm trying so hard to process the whole thing. But
Boy, those
yeah,
would have been interesting choices.
yeah.
Again, they would have been fine, but I don't think they would have made Ghostbusters a classic that we're talking about 40 years later.
No. No. And again, like it was lightning in a bottle. Like everything just worked the right way. The fact that that guys like Murray and Ramis were kind of afterthoughts. They were the script that
Exactly.
was originally written for Eddie Murphy and John Belushi. So, and I think if you had Eddie Murphy and John Belushi in there, they'd all be trying to upstage each other.
I think you're probably right. I think you're probably right. Yeah, I mean it's because that's they all came from the same well, Eddie Murphy didn't, but John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd came from the same improv troupe, and it's kind of like who can get the biggest laugh.
And I think what Aykroyd, I was just going to say, one of the quotes that stuck with me when reading his part was that he said, it turns out that myself and Harold are the least interesting characters in there. We're there for exposition.
Right.
So like Dan was smart enough to write a part for himself that took kind of a step back and let the other guy shine.
Mm-hmm.
When they decided to make Venkman the mouth, he said, we decided at some point in the last draft to make Venkman the mouth.
Yeah, they kind of modeled it after the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, they did. You're right. You're right. And they said they thought if Venkman was less techie and a little more skeptical about the whole thing, is kind of a grifter.
Yep.
Didn't really believe in it, but he could sell it. That it would work, and it certainly did because Bill Murray plays it with that aloofness.
Yep. Are you using that thing right? Well, I think so.
Yeah. It's just so classic.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Christopher Lloyd would have taken Egon he would have gone Doc Brown with Egon.
Yeah, it's Jeff. Yeah, I mean they all played. Well, at least Goldblum and Lithgow and Doc Brown all certainly played competent scientists. Well, one until he turned into a 185-pound fly. Then he was no longer playing a scientist. But yeah, no, I think they would have been interesting. I think Keaton probably would have been a little bit too big.
Yeah, Keaton would have gone.
Egon is really just he's deadpan and quiet. He's very restrained, and that's just part of the character.
I would parallel his performance to Leslie Nielsen in the Naked Gun.
Oh, there you
Squad.
go. There you go.
Straight, dead straight. Delivers the funniest shit with a straight face.
Julia Roberts auditioned too. No kidding.
Wow.
Things you learn.
Yeah. But yeah, so that original film, I mean, let's face it, here it is. It's 40 years old. It's still king. It's in my top 5 all time. I don't think they can touch it.
No, no,
Before we,
and even like they tried, and it was too late, and it didn't have all the missteps that made the original one so good.
exactly. And let's talk about, before we move on to the sequels, I just want to talk about the tone overall. Like we said early on, that what made it work was that it took itself completely serious while at the same time not taking itself completely
Yeah,
serious.
exactly.
And a lot of that had to do with Elmer Bernstein's score.
Yes.
He brought like a classic 50s horror score to the film. And that was another thing. Like when I said I first went and I had no idea what I was going to watch, and it started deadly serious, and it pushes in on the New York Public Library, and it's got that dun, dun, and I was like,
Mhm.
I thought this was going to be funny. You know, what the
Exactly. Yeah,
hell is
it
this?
takes itself mostly serious. Although there is the little ding, 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 after Bill does it in the oh, they hate
With the
this.
piano, which
Yeah,
he
they,
improved.
of course. And then they added that later on in the same scene.
We
Uh,
are
it,
friends, DS man.
yes,
We're virtual friends.
exactly.
Thanks for the compliment. It's very sweet. Um, yeah, no, the score makes it work, and it goes back and forth between that 50s horror shrilly, during the serious moments, to the the schlubby
Exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's
and
it's it's kind of like with Back to the Future. The score plays it much bigger than it is, and much more
right.
serious than it is. Except, of course, like in those schlubby moments. But when it needs to be serious, it overplays the seriousness, and that helps sell it.
But what I love too, there's like no hero march. There's no, because the Ghostbusters, like you said earlier, they're like plumbers or garbage men, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that the music goes with their kind of schlubby, stuck in the guts guys, we're the Ghostbusters kind of vibe.
Yep.
These are everyday regular dudes, like they're not superhuman, and that the music kind of guides you along. You don't realize it, but your brain
Hmm.
does.
But your brain does.
And then let's talk about Laszlo Kovacs, ASC, phenomenal cinematographer. This, to
Yes.
score him to shoot this was just incredible, because
Exactly. And he didn't do the sequel, did he? That's painfully obvious.
yes, yeah,
But
I
we'll get
mean,
there. Yeah.
because the way this is shot with that, I mean, it looks, if you didn't know the content of the story and you just muted it for if you're watching it the first time with no sound, you weren't hearing the jokes, you'd think you were watching a classic sci-fi horror film.
Exactly. Yeah, it's shot dead seriously as well. I mean, everything about it is completely serious, and
Yes, he
with
was
the
a
exception
maestro.
of hell, even the reactions are deadpan. Even though Murray is saying stuff like, "Well, that's something you don't see every day." He's not. "Ah!" He's not over the top about
Generally, you don't see that kind of behavior in a major appliance.
it. Exactly. Nobody steps on a church in my town.
Yeah, just great. There's classic line after classic line, but Kovacs, the cinematography, Bernstein's score,
Yep.
the just the straddling of tone in general is what makes that thing the greatest. I mean, it's one of the greatest films ever made.
Exactly.
And when you break it down, it's about a bunch of guys wearing mechanics jumpsuits catching ghosts with laser guns.
Doing a thankless job, and just getting that paycheck.
But into the zeitgeist they go, right?
Exactly.
And they get the cartoon show in what, like 86, I want to say, like 2 years later.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. It was the momentum was still there, because it wasn't like it is today, where a movie leaves, goes on streaming, and people completely forget about it.
Well, no, that played in theaters for the better part of a year, calendar
Yes, it
year.
did. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they were still trying to catch it there, or hang on to some of that popularity, and they were struggling with what to do with the sequel, because not everybody wanted to do it and that sort of thing. So they did the next logical step. Well, let's merchandise it and let's get cartoons out of it.
Right. I will confess I never watched the cartoon.
Yeah,
I
no.
kind of I mean, you know, right off the bat, if we're not getting those guys voicing their characters, I'm
We
not
almost
interested.
did.
I know we almost did, but
yeah, Ernie Hudson auditioned for Winston, and apparently the producers told him, "You don't sound enough like Winston." So they got Arsenio Hall instead. But yeah,
yeah, and you know, I just saw that as I was pissed they weren't making another movie.
Mm.
I'm like, I'm not watching a cartoon to replace another film. Like, there should be another film, and
yeah,
it took 5 years to get that. You know?
exactly. But doing the research for this, I watched the original twice, once with commentary, once without, and then I watched the sequel. But the sequel disc has a couple episodes of the cartoon on it, and one of the cartoons is the first episode where they actually come back and say, "Well, you just finished fighting Gozer," and they're all covered in marshmallow and everything like that. So they
So they respected the canon and the continuity.
yes, they did.
So I'll take your word for it.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's good.
It was. I'm sure if I was a little bit younger and the target audience for that, I probably would have loved it. But
that's the thing too. I was a senior.
Cartoon, it was just yep. Problem solved in 22 minutes.
Yeah, the monster of the day, and
exactly.
And yeah, you're right. It was 86. Those cartoons were a dime a dozen. I was a senior in high school. Not interested. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just phasing out of the cartoon element of these things, and it was just I never got into the cartoon.
Maurice LaMarche is amazing.
Yes.
Also the voice of Orson Welles in Ed Wood.
That's right.
He looped in those dialogue.
The great Calculon.
Yeah. Phenomenal voice talent. So 1989, or I guess it was 88, they finally announced a sequel coming out in 89.
Yep.
89 had a summer of movies that rivaled 1982. My God.
Batman, Indiana Jones 3, Ghostbusters 2, Star Trek 5.
Lethal Weapon 2.
Weapon 2. Wasn't there a James Bond that came out?
Yep. The License to Kill. Yep. So it's you know, I couldn't wait. I put that as a priority, of course. Ghostbusters. And Star Trek killed me. So I was like, please, Ghostbusters.
Star Trek 5, Final Frontier.
Yeah, but you know what? I've learned to appreciate what it is and over time. But yeah, anyway, but this isn't about Star Trek 5. This is about Ghostbusters 2 now.
Who brought that up? Shame on you.
The 35th anniversary of Ghostbusters 2. I kind of like how, you know, they both have an anniversary this year.
Yes.
So the sequel's not really an afterthought here. This is, you know, you go first. Where do you start?
Okay, so there was a lot of debate on the sequel. I know that Bill didn't really want to be in it. They eventually convinced him with a script that I guess he said was extremely different from what they originally got, or what they finally ended up with. They were trying to cash in on the cartoon. There were just so many things so many mandates that they were trying to shove into this thing that wound up killing it. Yeah. And it was you know, they wanted to make, you know, Janine is much more like, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
I learned that from this guy over here.
And there is an episode of the entire Frozen Peas sketch that is almost word for word what Orson Welles did when he was doing the outtakes. So
yeah, I got to meet Shatner last year myself at the Star Trek tour in Ticonderoga, New York, and he was the best. He was fun. The guy's a force of nature, 93 years old, and there's no stopping him. And by the way, before we get back to Ghostbusters 2, and we're talking about William Shatner, his documentary, You Can Call Me Bill, is in theaters this week. It's at our local AMC. It's until Wednesday. It's probably not going to last more than a week. It's a documentary. But I'm going to go see it on Tuesday, I think. So, Pete, if you're around.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Paul's going to go. Yeah, come on. Shatner's our freaking...
Shatner.
He's a freaking god, man.
The Shat.
God among men. Anyway, back to Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters
2. What do you want?
Ghostbusters 2. Yeah, so they were trying to they were trying to jive with the huge popularity of the cartoon, which is why Janine's got the funny haircut and the giant giant cartoony
glasses and the red hair with the wig.
Everybody, unfortunately, much like the cartoon, their personalities are off.
Yes.
Egon is much more quippy.
Yes.
Ray is yo, exactly. Two in the box, ready to go.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, and Ray is much less exposition. They're all too quippy, and there were just too many studio not so much studio mandates, but self-imposed mandates that they wanted.
You had toy companies involved now too. You had merchandising involved. I mean, the first one was made. It was basically an independent film. Now it's a franchise.
Yeah, now it's a studio film, and they want to cash in on it. So, but they tried to follow the same formula with.
Did they ever?
Yeah,
it's structured exactly the same.
With they're coming up from nothing, but they shouldn't be, because they just saved the city from 100-foot Marshmallow Man.
But I bought that they got sued into oblivion by private.
No, that actually does make sense.
Because every time they went to do a job, they caused a lot of damage.
Yes.
I did that. Oh, that's okay. The table broke the fall.
Yeah, this is true. But yeah, it just seems like.
Hey, Glinzer.
Hello.
Thanks, man. Good to see you back. Thank you.
Love the icon.
Yeah.
All the skulls. Love the icon. Very apropos.
I'd say 82 was the greatest year for movies, but 84 was a good one.
But yeah, the formula just didn't work. And most of these sequels, the formula doesn't work. Man in Black 2 doesn't work because you don't have the same buildup. A lot of these sequels that have the everyman being introduced to the world slowly in the first one build up doesn't work in the sequel. Yeah,
because we're familiar with the universe now.
Exactly.
And I think one of the biggest faults of Ghostbusters 2 is they followed the exact same rubric. It's like it's almost beat for beat, timed out exactly the same as the first movie.
Exactly.
And then the disjointed idea that I still can't figure this out. So they say that the mood slime is created by all the hate and crap in New York.
Yep.
I can only imagine the mood slime Twitter's causing. And at the same time, there's this Vigo the Carpathian who has put his soul into a painting so that he can possess a child and live again. So how are these two things connected is my question. Because they're just not. But they keep trying to connect it, but they're disjointed to me. It's like they're two separate events, but they're trying to make it one.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't really make much sense like that. I mean, there's a lot of this movie that doesn't make much sense. I mean, if he could possess Ray at the end of the movie, why does he need a baby? Why didn't he just
inhabit Ray? Why didn't he just inhabit Janusz?
Exactly.
What does he need Janusz for? And then there's just weird scenes in it. Like, I think of the scene. Oh yeah, 2016 doesn't exist, man. It's dead to me.
It's not in this dojo.
Yeah, oh man, what a misfire. Anyway, we'll quickly touch on that as we bridge to the new ones. But the scene where Janusz goes to her apartment when the blackout happens.
Oh yeah.
When Aykroyd kicks the wire and the whole thing, and he's like, "Oh, do you need me to come in?" And she's like, "No, get lost, you creep." And he walks down the hall and his eyes turn into like flashlights.
Yep.
Why?
Or
it was just to do something cool, like, oh, I got a good idea. But why? He doesn't.
I'll give you another one. Why does he show up like Mary Poppins with the stroller?
With the stroller?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold that thought, Glinzer. We'll get there.
We'll get there. But yeah, they did a lot of odd choices. Like, there's no, why did he suddenly show up as a ghost dressed like Mary Poppins?
How come Ernie Hudson disappears from the courtroom?
Yeah, you're right.
The Ghostbusters are on trial. At first, it starts. He's not even on trial with them, which he should be. He's still part of the team. He went to the party with Dan Aykroyd. He's still driving Ecto-1 around, right? He's still part of their.
Yeah.
If they're doing this on the side, he's still part of the clan, right? I mean, he wasn't there and digging the hole in the street, but he's still he's part of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And then the shit hits the fan, when the Scolari brothers show up, and I wonder if that was a cheeky nod to Peter Scolari or something. But he's just gone.
No, you're right. Well, it's following the formula of having the three guys do their thing and then having him show up halfway through the movie.
Exactly. Even though he's in the beginning of the movie. And then some of and this happens in the new ones a lot, but the meta, the those meta moments, like when they're singing their actual song at the kids' party.
He-Man.
And why did the car have a 2 on it? Like, why did they use the logo of the movie on the car and on the uniforms? It's the sequel. It's not the. None of that makes any sense. It's to sell fucking toys. That's why.
Exactly. Which
they make the dark gray uniforms, and they have the one and it's only for the montage. They don't wear those dark gray ones ever.
That's right. Again. Yeah, they don't. That and the poster.
Right.
Yeah. I think I remember that. Yeah.
And of course, then they have to replicate Mr. Stay Puft with the Statue of Liberty,
which was with the NES Advantage controller, which I had.
My daughter watched Ghostbusters 2 last year when she was 10, and when it was over, she said, "Dad, that whole Statue of Liberty thing was so derivative. Like they were just trying to get the Marshmallow Man back in the movie."
She used the D word, huh?
Oh yeah, she's really smart. She reads a lot. She's brilliant. Yeah, and I was so proud of her for picking that up, because most 10-year-olds would be like, "That was awesome,"
Yep. Well, that's what they always try to do with sequels, make the same but different.
But now that we've hammered it, let's talk about what's good about it. I mean, this is a celebration of its 35th anniversary. So far, all we've done is put it down.
Right. But I gotta say, it's hard to believe that the hero from Dragon Slayer is the comic relief in this movie.
I talked to you about this offline, that when I didn't know that was Peter McNichol till at the end when they put his name up, and I was like, holy crap.
Why am I dripping with
Yeah, I thought now a lot of people think he's over the top with the Euro trash accent and the whole thing, but I think it's hilarious.
Oh no,
I think he's the best part of the movie, actually.
Yes, yeah. He definitely straddles that line between being funny and being a creep. Although he does kind of lean over the line a little bit into creep.
Yeah, which I found him more menacing than Vigo himself. I thought
Vigo
Janusz, because he's so slimy and creepy. He's just, he's touching Dana, and he's always like he talks. He's a close talker.
Yeah,
to borrow a Seinfeldism. I thought that was much more disarming than a painting that sticks its head out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the painting doesn't. It wasn't. There wasn't as much discussion. No, I'm going to tear it down again. But yeah, there wasn't. There was discussion about it, but not as much. He wasn't. There. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there doesn't seem like there was as much discussion about Vigo, except when Peter McNichol was around, as there was with Gozer and Zool and everything like that. Basically, kind of like the whole Star Trek 2 thing. If he's not on screen, they're still talking about him.
Yeah, well, and then going back to the first one, because it had everything was building to this climactic moment with Gozer and the Zool, the gatekeeper, and the keymaster, and the whole thing was tied together. And it goes back to what I said earlier: the Mood Slime and Vigo had nothing to do with each other. It was they wanted to put Slime back in because he slimed me, right?
Slime is a toy,
right?
Slime minor action figures.
So they had to get that back in there, and to make it like pink goo, like Jello.
Yeah,
it was just weird. And I mean, there are moments I love when they put it in the toaster, and Bill Murray's like, "Oh, we can merchandise you." Yeah, well, but well, we're supposed to praise it.
Yeah,
the cinematography is I don't think it's as good as what Kovacs did with the first one. But they hired a guy named Michael Chapman who shot Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, The Fugitive.
Oh, no kidding.
Good DP. But it didn't have the same, I don't know, maybe it didn't have the same feel to it.
It was much more flatly lit. I'm guessing that they didn't have enough time to get in there. I mean, not that there was a lot of like mood lighting in the first one, but it just seems a little bit more sitcom-y.
Yeah, it did. It did. But and then even with the
definitely much better.
Bringing in like Kurt Fuller as the mayor's assistant, the obnoxious guy who puts him in the sanitarium, and
yep.
I don't. The whole movie felt sitcom-y.
Yes.
Like it almost felt like a TV show, like it was episodic TV show that they compressed into a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, like they were trying to do the cartoon, trying to bring as much of the lovers of the cartoon into it.
Right.
The effects are definitely much better. ILM did these effects, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I mean the effects are definitely much tighter.
Which is because they were too busy to do the first one because they were with Indiana Jones and Star Trek. This time, Star Trek paid the price because they were too busy with Ghostbusters and Indiana Jones.
Right.
And Star Trek 5 had to go to Brendan Farron and Associates. And oopsie doopsies.
Yeah.
When Paramount should have just waited till the fall. Why go up against these movies anyway? We're not talking about Star Trek.
Yeah, we're not talking about Star Trek. But yeah, no, but the effects are definitely much tighter, especially like one of my favorite effects is the jogger.
Yes.
The jogger ghost.
Yeah, and they step on the trap and
he's pulling a Fred Flintstone and trying to run in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, the effects are definitely much tighter.
What else can you say about it?
I'm trying to be. Let's see, what else can I be generous about? Like, I don't know.
Even the chemistry between the guys seemed a little off. I don't know. I think Bill Murray. He said he never wanted to do sequels. He did one, and that killed him. And now he'll probably. I mean, it's surprising they got him for these new ones.
Yeah, well, I'm sure
he says I'll never make a sequel again. He's not the featured player in these new sequels. So.
No, it's true. I'm sure. Like I'm sure to borrow on what Winston says. If there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll do anything you want.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's probably something to do with it.
Let's see. What I dig about GB2 is the fight for peace and love and Howard Huntsberry's rendition of Jackie Wilson. Yeah, I do love that. That's a great song.
Yeah, you're definitely right.
Yep.
Oh dear. Oh boy.
Well, DS, when I was younger and much thinner, I used to get Kevin Bacon, but now I'm not young and thin anymore. So, yeah. So, is Ghostbusters 2 a serviceable sequel? Hell yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Is it fun to watch? Hell yeah.
Yeah. If it comes on, or if I need something to put on in the background, yeah, Ghostbusters 2 is a perfectly good choice.
And for in particular scenes that stick out are like when the cops pull up and Bill Murray does that whole I got a major gas leak down here. Like that's
the gas lines are over there. I got a major electrical problem down here.
Yeah, exactly.
Care to try again?
Yeah.
The phone lines are out.
It was the phone lines, and then he goes, the phone lines are over there. I got a major gas leak.
Oh yeah.
And I did like that they start out that they got sued into oblivion. Ray owns a bookstore.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
To me, it's the subtle comedy that I love. Like in the first one. Listen, do you smell that? Like,
yeah,
like stuff like that makes me laugh. I remember I would laugh out loud and I'd be the only one in the theater laughing at shit like that. In Ghostbusters 2, you get one of those kind of things too with oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. It was one of those lines. Movie. There is a train in this movie.
Did you catch the engine number? No, I
missed it. There's another one of those subtle lines like that. And it was oh my God, I just lost it. It's when Ray answers the phone in his bookstore. And he's like, what does he say? Like 5 on weekdays, 9 on Saturdays. Like Ray's a call 5 on weekdays. I think that's funny. Like someone just called to ask him how long, what his hours are.
Yeah.
To me, that's just those kind of things make me laugh.
Yeah.
And just about anything Peter McNichol says, he keeps telling those restoration painters that their work sucks. Like
everything you do is bad. I want you to know.
I want you to know that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it did. Yeah, he kind of steals every scene that he's in. And,
now the one thing
when they're taking pictures of it, and he's like trying to get them to go away from the painting.
Oh, you might want to ditch out when we get to that.
We'll let you know because
we'll let you know.
Haven't seen my name.
Yeah.
We'll try not to be too bad about that.
We'll
expect a few.
Yeah, we'll warn you.
And maybe I'll even.
And then
say
the only other thing I
something.
was going to say that suffers in Ghostbusters 2 is the score. Randy Edelman over. It doesn't. The music's almost wallpaper in that movie.
Yeah. I can't really remember the score other than the updated updated Ghostbusters music
And the Bobby Brown song.
and the Bobby Brown song, which he has the cameo in there.
Right. But yeah, I mean, all in all, it's a serviceable enough sequel. It's still fun because those guys make it that way.
Yeah.
Those 4 guys make it fun.
And then they tried to do a third one.
Well, I mean, my God, how many scripts did Aykroyd write over the years?
Oh God, he was constantly saying, "Oh, the third one's coming. The third one's coming." I get, and then just Bill Murray was just,
Yeah.
No, and Bill Murray was just like, "No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it." They did get him to do the video game.
Yes.
They did get
which
him to do
Aykroyd
the
still says to this day is Ghostbusters 3.
Right, which I haven't played. I'm not much of a video gamer, but I hear nothing but good things about it.
Same.
So, but
we were hoping to get an actual Ghostbuster on here, but he blew us off. Dan. Because I'm sure Dan's played the game or has the game and knows the game intimately. But
exactly. Yeah, and at 8 minutes in, you can see these 2 pixels. What that represents is in the second movie. Yeah, this guy has encyclopedic knowledge that is absolutely, it puts us all to shame because we're just kind of making this up as we go along. This guy knows facts and he's not here.
We invited him. We ran into him leaving Frozen Empire. He was going in, we were going out. So they tried for years and years and years to get a sequel, and then Harold Ramis dies on them.
Yes.
And that in 2014, 10 years ago, R.I.P. Harold, that was devastating to me too. And I remember when that news broke, I remember where I was when that news broke, and the first thing out of my mouth was, fuck, there goes Ghostbusters 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's over. How can you you can't have, I mean, Egon is the anchor. Need Egon.
Yeah, no, DS Man, you're right. Yeah, they were also on bad terms.
Yeah, they were.
Up until like very close to the end after Groundhog Day. So that I'm sure had a great deal to do with it.
Yeah, I read that when Murray found out Harold was really sick, he made amends with him.
Yeah.
So I spent some time with Bill Murray in what year was it? He came to the golf tournament here in Hartford, and it was the celebrity program, and I was working it, and I was tending the green, and he was launching the ball over the. He's terrible at the short game, and it was going this way and that way, and it was like 100 and something degrees out. It was so hot. In fact, he had a death pool going that day. Who's gonna die first? He's going around. You want in on the pool? And he just came walking right up to me, and he said, "What happened to the hot dogs? Where are the hot dogs? You promised me hot dogs." It was like the 9th green. It was like halfway through the course. And I said, "Are you kidding me? I ate them all. It's hot out here." And he goes, "All right." And he shakes my hand, and he was so sweaty. It was just gross. He's like, "Good answer. Good answer." Yeah. And then on his way to the next hole, to the next tee box, some kid's like, "Bill, will you sign my hat?" And it was a Denver Broncos hat. And I'll never forget this. He grabs the kid's hat and he goes, the Broncos. And he takes the kid's hat and he just whips it. He throws it into the woods. Oh, and the kid goes, "Bill Murray threw my hat away. Bill Murray threw my hat away."
Yeah, I've heard stories from people that I know that basically, like, he'll if you stare at him at a restaurant, like as he's leaving, he'll come up and grab a handful of your fries and eat them, and then say,
"Yeah,
they're never going to believe you."
Our mutual friend Angelo, his cousins live in Chicago, and they passed him on the sidewalk a couple years ago. Now it was like 5 or 6 years ago, and they said he heard them say, "Oh my God, that was Bill Murray," and he turned around and tackled them. And as they're laying on the ground, he stands up and he points down at him and he says, "No one will ever believe you." And he walked away.
Yep. Hey, Bill Murray. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's quite the character for. He tended bar. I think it was one of his kids' bars, and or just randomly at some bar in New York. It could be either. But yeah, no matter what you ordered, he poured you a shot of tequila.
Nice.
I'll take a rum and coke. Tequila it is.
Hey, don't worry, Glinzer. I'm sure you'll get that. You'll probably get 3 more of them, actually. Like
Yeah,
Hollywood's
they'll turn it into a cinematic universe.
Yeah. I wonder what Andy McDowell looks like now, 35 years later or whatever. So anyway, back to Harold Ramis passes, and it looks like it's over. But Sony, at the time, decides to form a new film division called Ghost Corps.
Corpse, how appropriate.
Yeah, or Core, Ghost Core,
yeah, but it's,
Corpse.
Yeah, it's
and continue the franchise by rebooting it.
Yeah,
they don't do that anymore. They don't ever do that.
After Ivan Reitman dropped out.
Yes,
because he was very down on doing a third one, especially after Harold died.
Yeah, after Harold died,
Bill won't do it, so it's just like let's just let this rest. So then Amy Pascal, and this all came out in the.
Oh, he's just a goofball, man. But he must be tough to work with because, as we talked about at the beginning of the stream, I don't know if you were here yet. He will never like sign contract. He's just verbal commitments, and like when they started shooting the first film, he showed up on the first day. Like they didn't even know if he was coming or not. So he marches to his own drum, and that can be difficult, I think, on site.
Yeah,
on a set.
He's lucky he's got a good personality.
Yeah, and he's a genius who makes them a lot of money, and they're willing to put up with it because they know he's bank. So,
but Ivan Reitman dropped out because Bill won't do a third one. We lost Harold, so let's just let it go. Amy Pascal did not like Ivan Reitman at all.
I remember she said something to the effect of, he doesn't seem to understand what Ghostbusters is about.
Yeah, something stupid like that. So with him gone, she decided to step in and say, "Well, I know what we can do. Let's do a third one without it." And so,
can I just make a comment that
sure,
Amy Pascal is like in another. I won't say exhibit A, but one of the exhibits of just how mediocre studio people are. They're one rung below politicians as far as like mediocre people go.
Yeah.
They're just dumb.
Yep. Yeah, that she is. Oh, Amy.
Yeah. So anyway, back to your story.
So yeah, so they tried a number of times to write sequels without them or to try to do a passing of the torch movie. They tried a number of different approaches. But then when they got to Paul Feig says, "I'll do it, but I want to throw out every attempt that's been made. I want to rewrite it from scratch." Now, a little side note, little asterisk here. Midnight's Edge, when they started their channel, did some phenomenal work researching the Ghostbusters 2016 debacle. So if you've got the internet, and you too, you should check out Midnight's Edge here on YouTube to see what they brought up.
Yeah, Tom and Andre are awesome. And I know Tom just did a Frozen Empire video recently, or a stream, which I avoided because I didn't want to listen to anybody else's opinion until I gave mine.
But yeah, so then Paul Feig decided that he wanted to throw everything out and start his own thing. And then that's.
Yeah. Way too many rees.
Exactly.
So they bring in Paul Feig, who I'll swing a chair for. Freaks and Geeks is awesome. I don't know if you've seen the short-lived television series Freaks and Geeks, which is on Pluto TV right now.
Oh, okay.
It's amazing. Him and Judd Apatow, I mean, they clobbered it, and they launched the careers of so many people from that show. But the Rogans, the James Francos, those kind of guys were all on that show. And I thought Bridesmaids was entertaining, a little too long for a comedy, like 2 hours, 10 minutes is.
90 minutes for a comedy.
90 minutes, 145 tops, for a comedy like that. But it wasn't bad. I got dragged to it with my girlfriend, and I was like, oh God, this is going to suck. And I laughed. But he was the wrong guy for this.
Yeah, no, what he does spoofs really well. Like he did that movie Spy.
Yeah.
Which was a spoof of James Bond with Melissa McCarthy. There's nothing wrong with that. He does spoof movies really well. I think. I mean, he was trying to do an original property that wasn't his. I think that was strike one, that they just shouldn't have done it, because he didn't understand what made Ghostbusters.
No, in fact, he almost made a mockery of it. That's, I mean, it
Almost.
felt like a long SNL sketch making fun of Ghostbusters is what that movie felt like.
Yeah, and the improv was without the structureless improv was definitely what helped kill it. I mean, I have no problem with anybody who's in it. I don't have a problem with anybody who's in it. It's just trying to jam all that
structurally a mess.
Structurally, it's an absolute mess.
And you pointed this out back then. You know, I gave it a fair chance. I went to see it for $1 at this old theater in Simi Valley. They used to get second run movies and charge like $1 in the afternoon. And now it's a first run theater, so it sucks. But so I'm like, hey, what could go wrong for $1 or $2, whatever I paid? I wanted to go and be like surprised.
Sure.
But it was painful. And you pointed this out. And we just talked about it. The fact that the first two worked because the tone was serious. And it was the characters' reaction to what was happening around them as they made glib commentary to what was happening that made it funny.
Yep.
This movie was, here comes my joke. Your joke was good, but ready for my joke?
Yeah, they were all, everybody was a character. And they're all basically the same character. Loud equals funny.
Loud equals funny.
Which is my
goofy dancing.
It's loud
and
funny.
And of course they had to make Thor there, Hemsworth, like so dumb. No human being he'd forget to breathe if he was really this dumb. You know, because they had to wreck the man. The girl bosses had to stomp the man, and
and everybody was trying to outdo each other. They didn't know when to step back and let, okay, this scene is not about me, so I'll just sit back and let that.
It was more like,
as opposed to, look, they're being silly. I'm going to stuff tips in my mouth.
That was good, Kate. But watch what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody knows.
Nobody could rein it in.
Comedy.
No. Well, they understood sketch comedy. And it was just sketch comedy. It was a sketch bit after sketch bit after sketch bit, and it was a barely coherent piece of narrative.
And it got too big. It was trying to be realistic, and then it got way too big at the end with all, if I seem to recall right, it didn't make up its mind as to what did the ghost shooters do. Do they actually destroy the ghosts? Do they actually trap the ghosts? That's what bugged me too. The whole point of the original Ghostbusters was to catch and contain a ghost. And in 2016, they were just obliterating them. Yeah. And it didn't work. It didn't work.
You had, what's her name? McKinnon, she's like licking the guns and, the whole.
And unfortunately it got involved in the election, and basically you had people coming out and saying, if you didn't like it, you're a Trump voter, and there was no self-control with the marketing of it.
Well, we'll give it credit for being a trailblazer, because it started this trend, which continues to this day, of attack the audience.
Yeah, and which is incredibly stupid. That if you back in the day they would admit, George Clooney, if you happen to meet him like you would meet George Clooney on the street, but
he would not tackle you and say, you'll never believe this.
No. He for a while there, if people would meet him and say that they hated Batman, he'd give him $20. Like, yeah, you're right, here. I made a stinker of a movie. But now it's like, no, we made garbage. It's the audience's fault for not understanding it, and that is just do not understand
Disney.
Disney is the king of it.
They took that model and took it to the next level, man. My God.
You don't like this movie for whatever reason.
It's your fault.
Bad characters, bad directing, bad writing. You happen to be an istrophobe. Whatever your reason is, it's your fault for not liking our movie, because our movie is perfect.
Look, the bottom line, all art, music, it's all subjective.
Yeah.
and to attack someone for not liking something is it's ridiculous. I mean, people tell me all the time, I don't like that, and you did this, and I hate you for it. And I'm like, okay, that's your opinion. That's great. That's awesome. If you don't, if you like 2016, fine. That's great.
Yeah, no, it's
I
fantastic.
don't, and
I
I
love
think as a
Godzilla movies,
and
I can't
you and
stand
I
90% of them.
and you and I mean, we went to school for filmmaking and whatnot, so we look at things with a more critical eye, and it's
Exactly.
it's a mess. It's poorly assembled film, top to
Yeah,
bottom.
exactly. Yeah, they're just badly made, and unfortunately, like we just spent 20 minutes wrecking Ghostbusters 2, and I'm sure there's somebody out there watching this thing probably after the fact. That, no, man, Ghostbusters 2 was amazing.
Yeah, and DS
you,
man, we need more auteurs because
Yes, we do.
that's another whole rant I'd love to go on sometime. I was talking about this the other day to our friend Paul. What happens when these auteurs are gone? When the Tarantinos, the Nolans, the Finchers, the Andersons, when they're gone, when they retire, and Tarantino's coming up on it, what the hell are we going to have? But that's another discussion for another time.
Yeah, exactly. But,
let's move on beyond Paul Feig.
Yeah, so
because the movie ends with them shooting the villain in the dick. And that doesn't tell you what that movie was about right there, right?
Yeah. And they do try to set it up for a sequel with what's her face saying, "Who's Zool?"
Yeah.
No, sorry, that's like.
Yeah. Oh, and we should make a quick mention that they do get all the original, all but Annie Potts and Rick Moranis in there as different people.
Yes. Yeah, they do. I think Bill Murray was like,
he's like the Walter Peck.
Yeah, I'm putting so little effort into this. I'm sitting down for my entire part.
Oh my God. He's talking about mailing it in.
Yeah.
But and Aykroyd has that dumb meta, I ain't afraid of no ghost. Like, oh God.
Yeah, it's but if you like it, more power to you. Like I said, I love Godzilla movies, and I can't defend 90% of them because they are stupid. They're just absolutely stupid. But I can check my brain out with the best of them.
We all can.
Exactly.
And we're going to be asked to later this week when Godzilla King Kong comes out. Anyway, so the movie loses like what, 80 million or something like that, which is funny because back when it lost 80 million, people were like, oh my God, bloodbath. The studio took it. Now Disney's losing like 300 million on their movie. Like I said, Disney took the model and ratcheted it way up.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you only lost 80? Watch this.
But yeah, so this movie loses money, and but apparently they still see
value in the franchise.
Exactly. So for some reason, I don't know if Amy Pascal had anything to. I think she was gone at this point.
It was right around that time. I don't know.
Yeah,
she left around COVID. Didn't she leave during COVID?
I think before that. But I know that she was not. She was not part of Sony during the original Spider-Verse movie.
Okay, because Afterlife.
She wasn't there.
I was actually surprised. I hadn't heard anything about Afterlife, and then all of a sudden a trailer drops, a teaser trailer. Remember that teaser trailer where they pushed into the barn?
Yeah,
and the wind blew the tarp, and you could see the ghost on the car, and that's all they showed you. And
yeah,
I was surprised.
Yeah, that movie definitely took a lot of people by surprise because there was no lead
not
up to
a lot of hype for it.
Trailer.
Right. And then the pandemic comes. Everybody has to lock down for coof protection, and they have to put the movie on the shelf for an extra 2 years? Year and a half?
Yeah, I think like a year and a half, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, these guys are I can't keep up with the chat here. I want to kind of get through the sequels, and we can come back and address the chat because they're going off on the So you and I went to see Afterlife, and it was still kind of it was 21, but it was still things were partially open, weren't they?
Yeah, things weren't completely back open yet.
And I remember I have mixed feelings.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of like, we're really sorry for the for the last one because there was so many member berries in it.
They might as well have just put that on the screen before it started.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That was a huge apology. That's for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, so but yeah,
And you
that
kind of
one,
felt that when you saw Jason Reitman was attached to it.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was once news started coming out about it, then people were like, "Oh, wait a second." They were all confused because wait, this is a Ghostbusters 3, not a continuation of the other one. This is odd.
Yeah, this was the other one never happened. This is where we're picking up. And
And
you know, right off the bat, you get the you know, during the
yep,
opening, and you're like, okay, you know, and then all the music was recycled from the original, which helps set the tone.
yep,
I thought the tone of Afterlife was right.
yeah,
The film itself, oh man, I don't even know where to start with this.
yeah. It's obviously it's a passing of the torch movie because you got an entirely new cast. You do have the some obnoxious kids because you want to cast younger actors so that they don't grow out of the part.
Well, that and they're clearly Stranger Things was like the hottest thing, right?
That's true. That's true.
And they even put one of the kids in it. So they're clearly, to me, it was like it was Stranger Things kids meets Ghostbusters. That's what it felt
Mhm.
like. Or
Yeah,
the Goonies. The Goonies meets Ghostbusters. It was like this hybrid, you know,
Goonbusters.
and clearly the movie's not made for us. It's made for Gen Z. It's made for, you know, younger people.
Yeah,
Because I'm not interested in these characters. I'm sorry, they're
yeah.
dull.
No, I mean it's Paul Rudd is being Paul Rudd, and he's
Which
okay.
he's likable. Paul Rudd's
Yeah, he's
likable,
likable,
but he's the closest thing to what they had in the original too.
yeah,
It's the fact that like the rest of them, I mean, and they're Spanglers, so I guess they have to be. They're all just playing it straight. There's not a lot of comedy.
yeah. There wasn't much. I mean, I liked it probably because it did have so many callbacks, but I haven't seen it since, and I really have no drive to see it. I think it might have been on television. Yes, I still watch television,
Yeah,
not streaming. Um, but yeah, it was on, and I was like, I don't
I
care.
watched it the other night because I had the time. Just because I watched all of them right consecutive. I didn't watch 16 again, but I watched the real ones, and it's talk about derivative. My
Yeah,
daughter hasn't seen the third one yet, and she's afraid to. And I'm like, well, it's entertaining, but it's also kind of a slog. And
yeah,
it had those things in it that she finds the proton pack and immediately puts it on and knows how to use it. Like
yeah, and grasping things that you have to have a doctorate in physics to
well,
understand.
going back to Ghostbusters 2, right? And going back to Ghostbusters 2, Rick Moranis puts the thing on. He's like, "Oh my god, this thing's heavy." And here now you have a 12-year-old kid just plops it on and runs around
Yeah,
with it.
exactly.
Like it's stuff like that that kind of bugged me. And did we have to go back to Gozer and Zool again?
Yeah. Well, again, they were trying to
Soft
make the
reboot.
apology. Yeah, it's a soft reboot, and that's what made the first one good. And so that's why they
Yeah.
went back to Khan in the in the Star Trek remake is because people know it.
Don't get me started on Jar Jar
No,
Abrams
we're
either.
not talking about Star Trek. Not talking about Star Trek. But
Or J.J. Abrams.
oh boy. But yeah,
Yeah.
but because that's what people know. And so when when the parents of the Gen Z kids go to see it as well, like
There's something
I
familiar.
remember Gozer.
Yeah. I mean, there were, I won't lie. I mean, it does hit you in the feels a little bit.
Yeah, the whole Harold
But
Ramis tribute
But
thing was
well,
definitely
that's what I was going to say. The whole thing is saved when the preposterous all of a sudden they're standing in the field, the three Ghostbusters, right?
yeah.
The three surviving Ghostbusters. They just all of a sudden they're there. They just find the house, they're there.
Yeah.
And we had to have the "Are you a god?" and that whole bit again.
Exactly.
But when Ghost Harold Ramis, all of a sudden you see these hands grab the proton thing and pull it toward. And I was like, holy mackerel. Like,
Yeah, that was really well done.
That could have ruined the movie.
Yes, it could have.
It could have absolutely ruined it, but it was handled so well. I can't lie. I get goosebumps. It almost redeems the entire movie. And he conveys everything through his eyes. That CG Harold Ramis works so well. And thank God they didn't have him talk.
Yeah, talking would have definitely that would be bad.
Yeah, I mean back then they probably would have had sound alike.
Yeah.
And now they'd use AI with his actual voice, but it would still sound mechanical because AI sucks. Don't use it. You're contributing to your obsolescence. Yeah. So that whole last bit, because up till then, I mean, the movie, it's fine. It's entertaining. It does
but
its job. When they show up,
sold popcorn.
It's sold popcorn in the Ecto-1 popcorn buckets. But when they show up, all of a sudden it feels like a Ghostbusters movie because the chemistry that those guys have with each other, and it showed you the difference. Like the movie was very serious in tone, very little laughs, maybe a few,
Yeah.
And then they come and it's like, oh, awesome, right? Like this is what we paid our money to see. So it felt, I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt like a fan film.
Yes, it did. It felt fan film was a great way to put it. Yeah, it's there and serviceable. If it's not something that I'm really looking forward to seeing again.
No.
But if it hits you in the feels and it's something that you really like, well, good for you, man. It's entertainment is subjective.
And I will say, because now we're going to move on to the new one, that Paul Rudd is much better in the third one than he is in the new one.
That's true. Except for one very meta scene.
The new one?
In the new one, there's the scene is in the trailers. Something weird. Don't look good. Spoilers. Who are you gonna call? Busted makes me feel good.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I mean, God.
That whole scene is in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything for you.
Happens
in the trailers.
So let's quickly touch on the new one. Your thoughts first.
Okay, there were some minor spoilers if I can help it. I liked it because I liked it in the fact that it's an original villain. In the fact that it's not replaying Gozer or Vigo, or it's somebody completely different.
I agree. I liked that it was an original story.
Know how they're going to handle it. It's not going to be, oh, here come the dogs.
Cross the streams. I was waiting for Cross the Streams.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You don't get all of the beats of the original or from the last.
I agree. I thought the story, a nice original news story, was very refreshing.
I think the
back in New York.
Back in New York, very important. Back in New York. We do get to see some returning faces. Walter Peck.
Yes, the Dickless Wonder is back. He should have been given more to do, though.
Yeah, no, he was still entertaining, and I'm glad he still carries a grudge. But he was good. The Fire Master, I don't know his name.
Oh, yeah. If I can even pronounce his name. Yeah, the kid from Silicon Valley.
The guy from the Eternals.
The guy from the who watched the Eternals? Nobody knows the Eternals.
The blockbuster movie, The Eternals.
Kamal Nanjiani.
Okay.
Sorry. Kamal.
Yeah, but he's entertaining. He's very entertaining. Patton Oswalt, who some people like him, some people hate him. He's only in one scene. He's well played because they don't overuse him.
He's a piece of crap in real life, but I do like that he is Basil Exposition. He is there to tell you the lore of what's going to happen, and that's his one scene.
And that sequence is that's animated,
and that's one of the best scenes in the movie, actually.
Yeah, and I don't like the obnoxious kids.
No, they're boring.
The new characters, the newer Ghostbusters, I mean, they're just there. you've got the obnoxious girl who can understand particle physics, and even though she's only 14 or 15, people do get doctorates in these things. They study for years to understand the
I'm sure
basic
Neil
concept.
deGrasse Tyson would have things to say about
Yeah, he probably is.
it. Right? Yeah, the Goonies kid hero thing. I think that was the biggest misfire with these two movies.
There were
Getting a new team of
effects,
Ghostbusters would not be an issue.
yeah,
It's giving the power to 12 and 15-year-olds that's the problem.
yeah, that's
me.
unfortunately, yeah. So,
And
but
it might
I'm
be a
sure that-
generational thing. I'm sure people right now are going, "Fuck you, buddy." You know?
it's but I'm
Okay,
sure that
boomer.
that's the audience that they're trying to hit, and so like with everything these days, you can't like something unless you're represented. So they're aiming for kids, so they're gonna get younger kids.
Now, that said, I would like to say, and this might be a spoiler, DS man, I hope not. You can mute us. The underlying theme in both movies that I do love is family is important. A family structure is important. And most particularly in this movie, having a dad in the home is like that undercurrent is really, I think, a strong statement to make, especially when Hollywood's trying to do the opposite these days.
And they also, one of the things I definitely did like is the fact that in the finale, I'm not going to spoil the finale, but everybody has a job to do. Everybody. So
Bill Murray's job is to make funny jokes.
Right. Well, yeah, that is.
He doesn't do anything. He just stands there.
I mean, the new guys all have something to do. The new characters all have something to do. The ones that are in the scene, Patton Oswalt isn't in the scene. All of when a new subplot girl has something to do. The original Ghostbusters have something to do. It's not just them standing. Oh God, what do I do? What do I do? Not they're actually.
And it wasn't cross the streams.
And it wasn't cross the streams.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for all 8 of them to go, "We gotta cross the streams." I'm glad they didn't. They found a different solution.
Yeah, and it was very clever and tall, dark, and horny, as Bill Murray puts it. He's definitely. I think he was well done. We saw it in IMAX, so you can see you could practically see cells dividing. That's how big the resolution was. But no, he was rendered really well. I'm getting a little sick of the Stay Puft Marshmallow minis.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that. I forgot to mention that earlier. So I don't understand why the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man exists beyond the first movie, because they're trying to clear their heads. Gozer says, choose the form of the destructor, and that Mr. Stay Puft pops into Ray Stance's head, and that's where it should have ended. Why now every bag of marshmallows has to come to life as little Stay Puft things? And I get it. It's like the Minions or something. It's to sell toys and whatnot, and the cutesy factor, but it doesn't make any sense. Zero.
Yeah.
Sense.
I mean, what they did with it, they had some cute bits, but enough with the cutesy marshmallow minions. Really, it's over. It's
I did like the one that got burned with the car cigarette lighter, and he had the cigarette lighter.
Yeah, he's laughing and
yeah.
But no, I mean it is all the reviews I have read or seen. It's a very divisive movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's you either are going to love it or you're going to hate it, I kind of liked it a little bit better than Afterlife.
I did too, because
it is an original story. But
exactly,
but yeah, you're going to either really like it or you're going to really hate it. And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, same. I would just say that for me, the movie had lots of peaks and valleys. It wasn't as sloggy as Afterlife for me. Afterlife, the first time I was watching it, I was riveted because you're just like, okay, what's going to happen next? The original guys are going to show up at some point. It feels more like the original. But in subsequent viewings of Afterlife, it feels long and tedious. This movie, it felt, I mean, I didn't hate it and I didn't love it. It's there. And I think the comment you made when it ended is, yeah, but it didn't. It was fine, but it never needed to be made.
Yeah, that's my ultimate thing is Ghostbusters. This can also kind of lead into a wrap up. Is Ghostbusters was an amazing movie, lightning in a bottle from 1984, and they did not need to make a franchise out of it. This was it was a one and done. The story is wrapped up, and
Or I would argue that they missed their window to do it properly back in 84, 85. If they jumped on a sequel immediately, had another one out in say 86 or even 87, made a
yeah,
trilogy even. But the fact that, you know, they could not get their act together ever throughout the history of this franchise, they just
yeah.
don't seem to have their act together at all. So
Yeah, it's there are so many missed opportunities that for whatever reason, blame it on Bill Murray, blame it on whoever you want. But yeah, there were a lot of missed opportunities that could have made it a lot better, but
but
how
I will
things went, it did not need to be a franchise.
no. You know, I feel like you did. I think the opening scene right after the, you know, uh, pun intended, Frozen Empire, the cold open. And then then they have, you know, they have the traditional Ray Parker Jr., the Ghostbusters logo, and then the first scene is the Ecto-1 racing through Manhattan, and there's like no cars on the road.
Yeah, I noticed
Okay.
that. Yeah, if you've ever been to Manhattan, there's just
Manhattan, by the way, is now charging you extra during certain hours for gridlock. They're charging you like a tax for having your car in traffic. Like that's how gridlocked they are in New York. That their shitbag mayor is going to charge you extra now for sitting in traffic.
Oh god.
They're going to toll you for sitting in like downtown. Yeah. So at a light, like it's your fault. So this Ecto-1's just ripping through, and it's the family. Like, I'm sorry. Those scenes just don't do it for me at all.
Yeah.
You know, and then they have the new trap on a drone and like whatever. Those scenes, but
they're clearly designed to make new toys and
yeah, but like I said to you after it ended, I said the scenes without Aykroyd, Hudson, and Murray just kind of drag, and then the scenes they're in are great.
Yep.
And although I do like the scenes, surprisingly, with Camille, whatever, Kamal, he was not obnoxious. I thought he would be as the fire. What's he called? The fire
the fire master.
god, fire master. He was entertaining. I think of that scene where he with the lighter. That was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Well, you told me to practice. But you know, overall, I don't think the new characters work all that well.
Yeah, it's a solid meh out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, how many times are they going to say when the light is green, the trap is clean, you know, and that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
But before we wrap up, and I do want to address this discussion in the chat. I want to. Can I share this? Is it working?
I can see it.
Okay. As we know, critics are shills. They're pathetic. And I stumbled on this by accident the other night because I wanted to see what the audience score was for Frozen Empire now that the audience has actually seen it, because the critics destroyed it. And I found this stupid link. The Ghostbusters movies ranked. Are you ready for this?
Oh no.
Oh yeah. You're not ready for this. Wait, where is it? Oh, here it is. I'm going to move this over here so I can scroll it. So there it is. Ghostbusters, 95%.
Okay.
I think we can agree with that. And I think these are critics.
Good.
Critics reviews. Number 2.
Naturally. I was half expecting that to be reversed.
Oh geez, no, they can.
I would have just walked away right then and there.
You can't. By the way, why is the logo backwards on that first one?
It actually I do remember it was. I think I had a movie poster and it was backwards.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we know, the critics will they'll die on the sword for that 2016 movie, man. They will just I can't believe that's a hill they want to die on, but if they want to, let them. I mean, my God, how can you rank that as the second best Ghostbusters movie? Third one, Afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth one, 2. They gave the new one dead last.
Mhm.
And this is based on their critics, their Rotten Tomatoes critics scores. My God, how can you have 2016 ranked 2?
I mean, they years ago, a couple of years ago, they had a big box set where it was 1, 2, and
Yes.
Afterlife, and then they very conspicuously didn't put 2016 in there. And
No, and then the blowback from the defenders of 2016 started ranting, so they put a digital code for that movie. You could download or stream it. But yeah, it came in the trap.
Oh,
The
that's
box
right.
was the trap. And I was pissed because it sold out so fast. I didn't pre-order it, and then it was sold out like immediately, and they never made any more. But now there's a new movie, so maybe I'll just wait for the next set to come out.
Right.
Suckers.
Which will, of course, have the 2016 because they don't want the blowback.
No, I think they'll leave it off. I think it'll just be these 4. And then they'll release another Ghostbusters in 2 or 3 years, and then the cycle will continue on.
Exactly. Like
on
whenever they released a new Star Trek movie, there was always a new box set.
Yeah. Then the box set with the box set. Then the steelbook of the box set.
Yes.
Then the box set in the ship. Then the box set in the transporter room. Then the box set in the... Yeah. And it's all the same disc over and over again. They don't do anything different.
Exactly. So what more can be said about Ghostbusters?
Not much, but there is a whole discussion in here. I just wanted to quickly go back to talking about auteurs. So Gunzer says, auteur, I have this original idea. Producer original grabs dictionary. Name me some excellent screenwriting geniuses. And DS, I sent you a message earlier. If you want to read some great stuff, read Rod Serling's stuff. The guy he's my favorite writer of all time. Rod Serling was amazing. Let's see, what else do we got here? Patty Chayefsky, good one. I mean, my God, Network still holds up today. And I don't know if you guys are aware, there's a movie called Face in the Crowd. Ilya Kazan. It came out in 1957, starring, of all people, Andy Griffith. And it's more prescient today than ever before. It's about a guy creating his own celebrity and becoming a huge icon. He was a convict. He was a prisoner. He got out of jail and he became a giant radio host at the time and became basically the Howard Stern. And you've never seen Andy Griffith like this before. He's a complete asshole.
Really?
Yeah, it's a great film. Check it out. Face in the Crowd. With this YouTube, TikTok generation, it's more relevant than ever. And it came out in 1957. Sorkin and Mamet. Yep. The Mamet's awesome. I just watched State and Maine again recently. That movie's so good, man.
Is that the one that you showed at your place where it was?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Making the movie up in Vermont. Yeah.
Yes. That one.
Philip Seymour Hoffman, William H. Macy, Alec Baldwin. Like, I forgot everybody's in that movie. It's so good. And it just shows the grime of Hollywood. And that was made in the year 2000. And it's gotten worse since.
Yes.
CG Harold Ramis was way better than CG Peter Cushing.
Yes.
Although I will say, whoever did the voice was damn good.
Peter Cushing.
Yes.
Not Harold Ramis, because it was
no.
Well,
Harold Ramis. They hired a mute to do.
Yeah. But Harold Ramis had the advantage of being covered with effects. He wasn't. They weren't trying to pass him off as a real person. He was transparent.
No, but
effect on it, which kind of hid any imperfections.
That's true. But if you look, I mean, they did a great job modeling his face.
Oh, absolutely.
The hair, they aged him properly.
Yep,
he looked great. The only thing they didn't get right is Harold Ramis was pretty tubby at the end.
But, yeah.
But that's, you don't want to see fat ego.
Exactly.
Rogue One was episode 3.5. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
it takes place before episode 4. Matter of fact, you can actually you can go right into the original, into episode 4, and it almost
you can stitch them together and it almost works seamlessly. Yeah. Although CG Leia at the end of Rogue One's awful, but I like Rogue One. It's the only Disney movie, Star Wars movie I like. The only Disney Star Wars period besides Mando season 1. And that Darth Vader scene at the end is the Darth Vader scene to end all Darth Vader scenes. Like, that's the scene I always wanted to see, where he just goes ape shit and kills all those guys, man. That was awesome. And it also what's great about it, of course, it's prequel-itis and going back in hindsight, but it gives you a better feel of why those rebel soldiers were so scared at the beginning of A New Hope, or as I call it, Star Wars. You see, oh yeah, I sent that to you, right? They're putting all 9 movies out in the theater on May 4th.
Good for them.
Yeah, if I go at all, I'll buy a ticket and go see the 3, 4, 5, 6, and walk.
Yeah,
walk out.
exactly. I mean, they are going to be the special editions, but it's
Even still, I can ignore those inserted scenes just to see those films again.
Yeah, I mean, but it would be nice to see the originals on a screen again.
I can't. The prequels are just no, and they don't even look good. I mean, the CG is so dated. I can't imagine watching Phantom Menace on a big. That's coming out by itself too, pretty soon, like the 25th anniversary. I mean, that looks like a cutscene from a video game. Those effects are so bad.
Yeah.
No, DS man, spot on with that. If you're still here, that goes to my point about the whole family, the undercurrent of family, which they, Hollywood likes to broom now. I don't need no man. Let's see. Yes, he is, but he's also a humongous asshole.
We did.
Well, we did.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like that. Full disclosure, my mother was divorced, and my stepdad raised me. I considered my stepdad more my dad than my bio dad. So I love the part where they finally come around to accepting Paul Rudd. And well, you haven't seen the movie, but yeah. Oh God, absolutely.
No, you're absolutely right.
Because they're afraid to take a chance in Hollywood now. They don't want to take a chance. They go with what they know is going to work. Existing IP, brand that works, merchandising.
They're remaking the Never-Ending Story, for crying out loud, and that's going to be a cinematic universe.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think ahead, but I have this image of all the big movies coming out this year. The tent poles, or I guess you'd call them blockbusters, or anything with a high budget, I guess. And of them all, there's probably, I'm guessing, 24 of them on there. I think it's like 4x6 grid. There's only 4 that are original. The rest are sequels, prequels, or spin-offs. It's just, I went to see Dune last week, finally. And every trailer before Dune was it was Kong and Godzilla, Twisters, Furiosa. God, I can't even think. There were just so many. Ghostbusters. It was just so many. I was just like, oh my God. Just stop. Just stop. That's why you'll never see a movie like the original Ghostbusters again, I don't think. I mean, last thing, Galaxy Quest came out 25 years ago now. Even that's kind of a, it's the same kind of genre, but I love Galaxy Quest. It's such a great film.
Rabthar's Hammer, you love Galaxy
By
Quest.
Rabthar's Hammer is right. Frozen, and rest in peace, Alan Rickman, another genius, gone too early. Yeah, the critics are a joke, man. See, they probably don't like the new one because it has those themes of family and having a dad in the house, and they don't like that shit. That's why they gave 2016 84%, the critics. Basically, just do the opposite. If the critics hate it, it's going to be great, and if the critics love it, it's going to suck ass. Good.
I was generally thinking that it was going to be reversed, that the original was going to be number 2. Well, I think it's appropriate that 2016 is number 2.
Oh, it's I see what you did there.
Waka waka.
Waka waka. Oh, Kevin Smith. How much time do you have? That fucking guy. It's funny because I mentioned that this is like a great anniversary year for, from 84 to 89 to 94. And part of 94 to 99. Part of 94 was Clerks. And you and I were still in school at the time.
We're old.
Yes, we are. And I remember going to see that movie, Clerks. And I was blown away because what was inspiring to me is like, wow, this guy did this. He maxed out his credit cards and he made this and it got picked up, and like anybody can do this. It's a movie about 2 guys in a convenience store.
Yep.
It's a small movie. There's like 5 characters in it. This is great. I can do this. I can make this. It was really inspiring. So, and I got to talk to him in 99. I sat down and told him about what I was working on and everything. He gave me his card and he said, when you get it done, give me a call. He introduced me to his producer, Bob Hawk. Bob gave me his card. Said, when you finish your little opus, bring it to us and we'll see what we can do with it. And we never finished it, did we, Pete?
No, we did not.
It's done. But in the meantime, so many movies came out that stole all my gags, man.
Yep.
Like American Pie had, oh my God, had like 12, 15 of my jokes in it. I was so pissed. I'm like, I can't, people are going to think I'm ripping off American Pie now. Yeah. I was so pissed. Because we shot ours in what, 97, 98?
Something like that, yeah.
And Pie came out in 99 and we were still cutting ours. And I was just so demoralized by it. And then the home theater scene that I'd written where you crank up the theater and the sticks are flying at the girl. And they did that in Small Soldiers, the movie Small Soldiers with Phil Hartman. They had the exact same scene. Almost the dialogue was almost the same. And I'm like, now that, like, all my jokes are gone. I can't put this out now. Pissed me right the fuck off. Yeah, but I'd love to do a Kevin Smith live stream, DS, and you're welcome to join us for that. Oh, who doesn't love Monty Python? I showed the Holy Grail to my daughter last year, and she still quotes it.
Nice.
What? Monster Squad remake? Whew. Yeah,
that
didn't happen.
I'm glad. I'm definitely glad that didn't happen.
Good God, man, that's a classic. I met Kevin 4 times. Yeah, I've met Brian O'Halloran. I met Jason Mewes. I know Randall there. Jeff Anderson's coming to Terrific Con here in Connecticut this year. Him and O'Halloran. They're nice guys because they don't big time you. They're independent filmmakers. They still live in New Jersey. You know who's a dick though is Walt Flanagan. That guy's a dick. That's another story. But remember, you were with us, Pete, when we went down to shoot this.
Yeah, I accidentally.
And that fucker was making all that noise.
With the boom.
Yeah, well, Mike Zapsik's a great guy.
Yeah.
Remember what Walter did? He went and sat down over there and was making all that fucking noise and shit. Like,
that's right.
He's such an asshole. He wouldn't even talk to us. A dick. Fuck you, Walt Flanagan. Yeah, Blair Witch Project.
I disagree with you about Blair Witch. I didn't like it as much, but
I didn't like it as much either. But it launched a whole new genre of found footage.
True,
movies.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, the found footage movies.
Yeah. So, Clerks turns 30. I'll never forget our mutual friend Dan Nocera, Pete, telling us, "Oh, we got to go see this movie Clerks," and I'm like, "What's that?" And he said, "Oh, it's like a Richard Linklater thing. It's an independent film about these slackers. It's our generation. We're slackers. We got to go see this." We went to Trinity to see it, right? Trinity College.
That's right.
And for what it was at the time, brilliant. You can tell the guy wrote the script with his thesaurus open right next to him.
Yeah,
because nobody talks like that. But 94 though, what a year! I mean, you had Ed Wood, Shawshank Redemption, the Coen brothers there, the Hudsucker Proxy, Quiz Show, Pulp Fiction, Speed, Schindler's List. Like the year was it's just one after another. Red Rock West. Yes. If you haven't seen Red Rock West, grab it. I know the Vinegar Syndrome. For those of you who are outside Connecticut, Vinegar Syndrome is here in Connecticut, and they do film restorations. They just restored it on Blu-ray from a 4K negative. It has since been unavailable except on DVD and 4x3 pan and scan. And they put out a nice book edition. They only made like 6,000 copies of it, and it sold out. So they put it out in a regular plastic keep case now. It's like $20.
Really?
Yeah. So Red Rock West, grab it if you can. It's a great crime noir film.
Nicolas Cage is in it.
Nicolas Cage. Our guy from Speed there, Dennis Hopper's in it. JT Walsh, and what's her name from Men in Black 2? Laura Flynn Boyle. Great film.
Yeah, it's a quirky little movie. It's not a typical Nick Cage going bananas type of movie. He's very subdued.
Not at all. He's really subdued.
Red Rock West.
It's almost like a Coen Brothers movie. It's like Blood Simple. It's a case of mistaken identity. Go murder my wife. Caper gone haywire. And it's just so good, and it's got so many twists and surprises. And I don't want to give anything away. That's a classic. Also turning 30 this year, so I'd like to do a stream where we go over like 1994.
Okay. Well, maybe we should.
I think we should.
All right, that'd be that way.
Because the 90s, look, 84 was a great year, 89 was a great year, but those were still like big studio,
right?
But that's when the studio took chances still. I mean, 89, they were clearly getting into their sequelitis. 84, they were still taking chances. I mean, you had the Terminator and, Ghostbusters, and you had things like that. And the following year, 85, you had Back to the Future. I mean, these were groundbreaking. 89, it was all sequels. It was Back to the Future 2 and, all of them. But the 90s launched the auteurs of the time. The Spike Lees, the Kevin Smiths, the Quentin Tarantinos, the Richard Linkletters, it was a great time. It was a great, what's his name? He died, John Singleton. Like, there was just so many great young filmmakers out there. And the studios were saying, do your thing, man. Mostly, and sadly, it was Weinstein at Miramax. Yeah. He was backing a lot of these guys. The Billy Bob Thornton with Sling Blade. Like, all those kind of things came out back then.
But I do think we should probably consider wrapping this up, mainly because it's almost noon, and you set your computer to do an update at noon.
Oh, that's right. I did. So we're going to have to say goodbye. We're going to let
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for participating. Thanks for you guys in the chat. It was nice to be back. We'll have to do more streams, I think. We should.
Absolutely.
And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, if you're watching this after the fact, please do. It helps the algorithm. We have to rebuild ourselves in the algorithm. We've been flushed, which is fine. We're all busy. We have lives, but we don't have all the disposable time we had during the coof.
But yeah,
all right.
Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for watching this after the fact. Hope
and real quick, hang on, real quick before we go, because I got like an extra minute here before my computer will kick me anyway. Go to Amazon or go to Birdbrain,
birdbrainthecomicstrip.com, and that'll take you to the print editions of my book, as well as if you're an absolute cheapskate, you can read the scripts there. But please buy a copy of my books. They're funny. They're brainy. They're bird brainy. So. And yes, we have high hopes for Nosferatu next year. For
we can't wait.
Love it. Can't wait.
That's one of our favorites. Pete and I used to watch that to death in college, and we even made we should play the knockoffs we made. The creepy videos we made.
Yes, we should, but not now because your computer's about to kick you off.
So with that, we're gonna let Janusz take us out.
Yes, I think no. Yes, the joyfulness is over. The joyfulness is over.
Thanks for watching Geek Time TV. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe, make sure to check the little bell icon anytime someone from our network drops new content here. Want some Geek Time swag? Check out the merchandise available in the Geek Time TV store, linked in the channel description below. Share Geek Time TV with friends, and as always, thank you for your support. We'll see you soon.